Hey everybody, welcome to On the Homefront. John Murphy here with you once again. Very happy to share some time. You might be catching us live today on AM 1400 WILI or FM 95.3. We're also on WECS FM and WICH in Norwich, New London. And the radio station has a dedicated YouTube channel. If you go to the WILI radio YouTube channel, the afternoon shows all have playlists. So we save and archive our shows so our guests can continue to tell their stories throughout the year. We're really happy to have you today because it's a special show for me. If you watch or listen regularly, especially on YouTube, we usually focus on the community. We're talking about tenant unions, local food, agriculture, healthcare, community issues. But today we're going to take a little change in format to honor a really creative genius from our last century that we're going to honor today, Brian Wilson. And my guest today is Rob Berman. He's a singer-songwriter. And it's a nice moment for us to share with you because we started doing radio together at WAER at Syracuse University 55 years ago. And during those days, we enjoyed Brian Wilson as he emerged from the Beach Boys into another whole musical universe. So we're going to look at this today and share his spirit with you. If you're a Beach Boys fan, this is about things that involve more than surf and girls, although those were great tunes. This is about the exploration of life and the soul that Brian went through. So anyway, I'm really happy to have Robby here today, Rob Berman. Welcome to the studio, Rob.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So maybe we could begin briefly, and we have a lot of music planned. We have carefully chosen tracks for you, but kind of give an idea for why you thought this would be a good show to do now in 2025.
Okay. Well, when Brian died a month or so ago, maybe 2 months ago, there's a lot of publicity about it, of course, and people trotted out all of the Beach Boys hits, and I'm sure a lot of people wondered, well, what's all this talk about him? Why does anyone care? He's just a guy who made a bunch of surf records or car records in the 60s, and who cares? And I understand that reaction. And, many of us just know the Beach Boys from songs like Fun, Fun, Fun and California Girls and other songs, full of misogynistic lyrics about girls. And they were big hits and they were fun records. But that's not really his story, and his story is much more interesting than that, and people throw around the word genius a lot, and it's well-deserved in his case. Brian had a magical connection with music, where music itself is sort of a magical thing, where putting notes and chords and rhythms together can make it just a lot of noise, or it can make something that's okay. But Brian had a gift for putting these things together in a way that would be something else, that would touch you in a way that it was just very moving. And these moments are often not found in the hit records that and I just thought it'd be interesting for people to hear some of this stuff that's really special music, whether you care about the Beach Boys at all or not. And I'd like to share some of that stuff with you.
Yeah, so we're going to follow kind of a timeline through the years, from his early years with the Beach Boys, kind of culminating in Pet Sounds.
Yeah.
Major changes follow, and that'll be the second part of the show. And Rob's really, he's put together a wonderful kind of a playlist. So when you hear these songs, there's lyrics there, but there's music. And you have to listen very carefully to the music apart from the words, because sometimes things come through that are not on the page. And I know you talked about that a lot.
Yeah, so let's set it up a little bit. So okay. Brian he's also known, another thing he's known for is having had a number of psychological mental health issues. And that's all part of his story as well. He and his brothers, who were also in the Beach Boys, his younger brothers, were raised by a musician mother and a father who was a businessman who, when they were kids, had a machining company. But he was an abusive father. And Brian had a hell of a childhood, if I can say that.
Yes.
His father, Brian, was deaf in 1 year through most of his life because Brian's father whacked him in the side of the head with a board and destroyed his right ear, I believe it was.
Right.
He, at one point, forced Brian to defecate on the family dinner table as a punishment when he misbehaved. He was a nightmare. And Brian was an abused kid. And all the brothers were, but Brian was a very gentle soul, and he took it to heart. And early on in his life, he was also, one of his outlets was sports. In high school, he was a very successful baseball player, but starting in his late teens, he discovered music. He had actually early on in his life, when he was a baby, he fell in love for some reason inexplicably with Rhapsody in Blue, of all things, the Gershwin song, when he was a toddler. And beyond that, he returned to music in his late teens, and he discovered I don't know what you would call them, they were a jazz singing group, the Four Freshmen.
Yeah.
And while other kids were outside doing teenage stuff, Brian was sitting at a piano, painstakingly working out the arrangements, these complex vocal arrangements that the Four Freshmen trafficked in. And
they were big radio hits of the day.
They were, and they did beautiful music, but
Yeah.
it was not a normal thing for a teenage boy to be doing. But they touched something in Brian, and they formed kind of the core. Well, he always said that was his sole musical education, was working out those arrangements. And you'll hear as we go through this that they're very much the DNA of what starts the magic that he was able to touch so often. So what I thought I would start by playing you is play you a moment of the first song that they had a hit with, which is this rough-hewn song called Surfin' Safari, but I'm playing you that as a contrast to what was really going on in Brian's head. The way that they were able to record Surfin' Safari was that their parents went away for 2 weeks on a business trip, left the boys alone, and they immediately spent all their food money, and they ran out of money, and they wanted to rent some band instruments. So Brian taught them all this amazingly beautiful arrangement of a Four Freshmen song, forced his teenage brothers and their friend Al Jardine and their cousin Mike Love to sing this incredibly complex arrangement, and they sang it for Al Jardine's mom, who burst out in tears and gave them all the money they wanted to rent any instruments they wanted to rent, and that's how the band started.
That was the Beach Boys.
Yeah, so we'll start off with this little excerpt of Surfin' Safari, which just sounds like a garage band, and then you'll hear the music that really started it all, and you'll understand this is them performing it on Andy Williams' show in 1966, live.
All right.
Let's go surfing now, everybody's learning how. Come on a safari with me. Come on a safari with me. Early in the morning we'll be starting out. Some honeys will be coming along. We're loading up our woody with our boards inside and heading out singing our song.
So listen to the sound, it's really very good.
There's a story told of a very gentle boy and the girl who wore his ring. Through the wintry snow, the world they knew was one, for their hearts were full of spring. As the days grew old and the nights passed into time, and the weeks and years took wing, gentle boy, tender girl, their love remained still young, for their hearts were full of spring. Then one day they died, and their graves were side by side on a hill where robins sing. And they say violets grow there the whole year round, for their hearts were full of spring.
Okay, so you can just imagine what Al Jardine's mom thought when these scrawny, pimply kids came up to her and said, "Okay, Mom, we want to sing you a song we just worked out." And she probably, "Here, take all my money."
Well, the harmonies, just even then,
Yeah, just amazing. So anyway, so Brian had this separate track going. So on one hand, he's pumping out the Beach Boys hits, and they're making money for his entire family. which ended up being a tremendous amount of pressure on Brian because they quickly became dependent on his abilities to feed everybody.
Keep
that he
cranking
knew,
it out.
Keep cranking it out. And at the same time, he was serving his soulful side. And the first public evidence of that was this classic song of his from their Surfer Girl album called, which is also a beautiful song, but this song is called In My Room, and I think it tells the truth of Brian's reality.
There's a world where I can go and tell my secrets to. In my room, in my room, in my room. In this world I lock out all my worries and my fears. In my room, in my room, my room. Do my dreaming and my scheming, lie awake and pray. Do my crying and my sighing, laugh at yesterday. Now it's dark and I'm alone, but I won't be afraid. In my room, 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 in my.
Okay, so the Beach Boys make a ton of money on surfing songs, and then somebody in their camp decides, all right, it's time for car songs. So this is the first example of what John mentioned before, of where you have to start to learn to listen to the lyrics on one hand. In this case, they're written by a LA DJ, and they're all about drag racing. And then, on the other hand, listen to the music, which is an entirely different emotion that is just heart-rending. Brian's gift being, to put it in the words of Madison Cunningham, he makes the needle hit the vein somehow. He just somehow knows how to make the needle hit the vein. He just has that magic. So here's Don't Worry Baby. It was a B-side, and it's amazing.
Well, it's been building up inside of me for, oh, I don't know how long. I don't know why, but I keep thinking something's bound to
Okay, here's another song that's a classic example of that. On the night that John F. Kennedy was assassinated, Brian got together with his cousin Mike Love, who wrote a lot of those misogynistic lyrics. And anyway, they got together and wrote this song that's about girls on the beach. And so the lyric is all about that. But the music, they have pretty much said, and I think you'll hear, seems to have a lot to do with the JFK assassination and how sad they felt about that. So check it out.
What good is the dawn that grows into day? The sunset at night, or living this way. For I am the sun within me at night, within me at night. The love of my life, she left me one day. I cried when she said, I don't feel the same way. Still I am the warmth of the sun within me tonight, within me tonight. I'll dream of her arms, and though they're not real, just like she's still there, the way that I feel, my love like the warmth of the sun, it won't ever die, it won't ever
Okay, so the pressure on Brian kept building. And as we mentioned before, he's known for his mental health issues. And they first manifested in December 1966, where he was on a plane. It was Christmas week. He'd been fighting with his girlfriend. He'd cut a few tracks for their next album, including When I Grew Up to Be a Man. And he had a nervous breakdown on a plane as they were landing in Dallas. He broke down in tears. He wouldn't leave his seat. They couldn't get him off the plane. And it had all become too much. He was producing tons and tons of material. The record company wanted 3 albums a year. He was writing all the
albums a
songs,
year.
producing all of the songs, arranging all of the songs, and he couldn't do it anymore. And bear in mind, he was responsible for the financial well-being of his entire family, everybody in the Beach Boys Corporation, and it was just too much. And he was like 22 or 23. That was 1966. He was 24. So he said he couldn't tour with them anymore, and it caused a big schism in the household, in the corporation rather. And they went back out on the road. He continued working on the album, and shortly thereafter, he discovered Grass. And the next song is the first example of a song he wrote on Grass, and didn't hurt him. But it's a beautiful song. Please Let Me Wonder.
would have been worth waiting forever. I always knew it'd feel this way. And please forgive my shaking. Can't you tell my heart is breaking? Can't make myself say what I plan to say. Baby, please let me wonder. If I've been the way you let me wonder. If I'm who you're please let me wonder, love. I build all my goals around you, that someday my love would surround you. You never know what we've been through. For so long I thought about it, and now I just can't live without it. This beautiful image I have of you. Baby, please let me wonder. If I've been the one you let me wonder. If I'm who you're please let me wonder, please let me wonder. If I've been the one you let me wonder. If I'm who you're please let me wonder, love. I love you.
Okay, here's a little a cappella thing from their next album that I just think it's really, really nice. It's called And Your Dream Comes True.
Or so sleepy, wish that he could stay. Love him so, but now it's getting late. He'll be waiting, waiting just for you. One more summer, and your dream comes true.
Okay, so there's been like this dual existence going on. Brian cranking out music for the Beach Boys hit machine like California Girls and Help Me Rhonda, and quietly he's been working on this album called Pet Sounds, which came to be called Pet Sounds, an album that the Beach Boys were divided about. Some of them who wanted more hot rod songs and more beach songs were kind of concerned about it, and other members of the Beach Boys who were flabbergasted at how beautiful it was. The record company hated it, what they were hearing. They made them put out a party album to stall because they were sure it was going to be a bomb. They put out a greatest hits record because they were sure it was going to be a bomb. But it's an album that by now, 50 years later, everyone recognizes as one of the greatest records of that era, easily, if not the greatest. And the song that everyone was playing when he died was God Only Knows, which is, well, we'll just play a brief excerpt of that. So just run a little bit of that.
always love you, but long as there are stars above you, You never need to doubt it. I'll make you so sure about it. God only knows what I'd be without you.
So that was God Only Knows, of course. And, you know, it's a sound that doesn't sound like anybody else. Can't think of another song that sounds anything like that. And it's true of the whole album. It's just a very singular thing that Brian made. One of the other songs, and I thought I'd give you a little treat here, is Wouldn't It Be Nice, which maybe you know, maybe you don't. We'll just play a little bit of it. And then after that, we're going to play you. Well, Brian built so much beautiful detail into these records that you don't even really hear. So in this excerpt, towards the end of it, you'll hear they get to the bridge of the song, and there's some kind of background vocals going on. Who knows what's going on? Well, we'll show you what's going on, and you won't believe what is built into this song.
Wouldn't it be nice if we were older? Then we wouldn't have to wait so long. And wouldn't it be nice to live together in the kind of world where we belong? No, it's gonna make it that much better when we can say goodnight and stay together. Wouldn't it be nice if we were older? Then we wouldn't have to wait so long. And wouldn't it be nice to live together in the kind of world where we belong? You know it's gonna make it that much better when we can say goodnight and stay together. Wouldn't it be nice if we could wake up in the morning when the day is new, and after having spent the day together, hold each other close the whole night through? Happy times together we've been spending. I wish that every kiss was never ending. But wouldn't it be nice? Maybe if we think and wish and hope and pray it might come true. Run, run, will, baby, then there wouldn't be a single thing we couldn't do. But we could be married, or we could be happy, and then we'd be happy, and then we'd be happy. But wouldn't it be nice?
And just thought we'd play one more track.
What
from
a
Pet
treat, though.
Sounds.
Thank you for really zooming in on how the vocals just build on their own in the background.
Oh, sure. And, you know, this is the kind of stuff that Brian built into this, probably for his own pleasure and just for the sake of art, because you don't even really hear this in the mix, but oh my goodness. Anyway, the last song we thought we'd play from Pet Sounds is a song called Caroline No, which was actually released as a Brian Wilson solo single before the album. I think giving a little indication of kind of the what the heck is going on attitude going on in the Beach Boys camp, because they didn't know what to make of it. But this is another beautiful song.
Where did your long hair go? Where is the girl I used to know? How could you lose that happy glow? Oh, Caroline, no. Who took that look away? I remember how you used to say you'd never change, but that's not true. Oh, Caroline, you break my heart. I wanna go and cry. It's so sad to watch a sweet thing die. Oh, Caroline, could I ever find in you again things that made me love you be so much there. Could we ever bring them back once they have gone? Oh, Carolina,
Okay, we're listening to some music celebrating the life and spirit of Brian Wilson today, a very special edition of On the Homefront with singer-songwriter Robby Berman. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Okay, we're back in the studio here on the Homefront. Glad to have you with us. We're going to finish off the show and stay with our tribute to Brian Wilson with singer-songwriter Robby Berman. So we finished off kind of the edge for Pet Sounds, and things began to change in a huge way.
Yeah.
So kind of show us the next phase.
Okay, so Pet Sounds was really his crowning achievement and his masterpiece. Right after Pet Sounds, in fact, while he was recording Pet Sounds, he began work on a new song called Good Vibrations, which we're not going to play because I assume everybody who's ever bought Sunkist soda or who's listened to the radio knows this song. So that was great, and that song was a huge hit for them. And and that song was recorded in sections, and he decided to try to make a whole album that way. And again, bearing in mind the financial pressure on this guy to produce. And, it's like for him, it was a great vindication that creative music could make money because it was their biggest selling record ever. And so pressure was on. I'm going to save the Beach Boys world, and I'm going to be creative and win, 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 win. So he set about trying to record the follow-up to Good Vibrations in pieces and then piece together just as brilliant a piece of music as Good Vibration was. And it went on and on for months. And he started failing, and it started slipping away from him. And he was now like 25, and schizophrenia or something like that, I'm no doctor, but something like that started slipping in.
Family mental stress.
He started, and his record company was mad at him. His family was saying, "What are you doing, Brian? What is this crazy stuff you're doing?" And what he came up with, he finally came up with a single, the follow-up single to Good Vibrations, on which all his hopes rested. And he got into his limo with the acetate, which was a test pressing on vinyl of this song called Heroes and Villains, which he took to the DJ in LA. And we'll play you just a minute of that. And he put it on the air in LA. And well, let's play you that preview in case you don't know the song.
I've been in this town so long that back in the city I've been taken for lost and gone and unknown for a long, long time. Fell in love years ago with an innocent girl from the Spanish and Indian home of the heroes and once at night, Cotillion Square we fight, and she was right in the rain of the bullets that eventually brought her down. But she's still dancing in the night, unafraid of what a dude will do in a town full of heroes and
And the single basically landed with a resounding thud. Whatever magic he had found in Good Vibrations was not in Heroes and Villains. And he began to panic, and leaving behind the great unreleased album of all time, although it was kind of cobbled together much later in his life. And Capitol ultimately put out a massive box set of the bits and pieces that remained, but it was never finished. What was left behind were a handful of songs that are just spectacular, strange, and beautiful songs. We'd like to play you just a couple of those. Could we play Our Prayer would be next. This opened the album. And this is called Surf's Up.
A diamond necklace played upon, hand in hand, son drummed along. Oh, to a handsome man in baton. A blind glass aristocracy, back through the opera glass you see the beat and the pendulum draw. Calling needed ruins gone. Canvas the town and brush the backdrop. Are you sleeping? Hung velvet overtaken me, dim chandelier awaken me to a song that's off to the dawn. The music holocaust we bow, the music all is lost for now, to a muted trumpeter swan. Called in needed ruins gone. Canvas the town and brush the background. Are you sleeping? Dove-nested towers, the hour was strike the straight quicksilver moon. Carriage across the fog, two-step to lamplight cellar tune. The laughs come hard in old lang syne. The glass was raised to fire and rose the fullness of the wine, the dim last toasting. While at port adieu or die. A choke of grief, heart hardened I, beyond belief, a broken man too tough to cry. Surf's up, board a tidal wave. Come about hard and join the young, and often spring you gave. I heard the word, wonderful thing, a children's
So the name of that album, actually it had two names. It was originally called Dumb Angel, as in a deaf angel, and then they changed the name of the album to Smile. And that just kind of began a long period for Brian of accelerating mental issues. He participated less and less in the Beach Boy albums for a while. They had a studio in his house where he could just kind of amble down from his bedroom and help out. For a while, he didn't leave his bedroom. He went through all kinds of things. I don't want to detail it too much because, as I say, I'm no doctor. And but sort of like Years in the Wilderness, there were releases throughout this period, some of which were not, well, it's just, let's just say he spent a time in the wilderness. But after a while, He also lost his wife and his family. He lost contact with his daughters, Carney and Wendy, who were in the group Wilson Phillips. And after a while, though, things stabilized. He remarried, got back in touch with Carney and Wendy, and he got a good support system around him, and he started working again. And in his later years, he was on tour, and he was recording albums again. This is a track from his album Imagination, which was written to his younger brother, Carl. And it's the reason I wanted to include it is because an example of how...
Lay Down Burden?
Yeah, Lay Down Burden of how his... I'm sorry, I leaped ahead of myself. So one of the tracks that came out on one of the albums, on one of the later albums, is called Till I Die, where Brian is expressing, well, you'll hear what he's expressing, but this is a track that came on one of those later albums.
I'm a cork on the ocean, floating over the raging sea. How deep is the ocean? How deep is the ocean? I lost my way. Hey, hey, hey. I'm a rock in a landslide, rolling over the mountainside. How deep is the valley? How deep is the valley? Oh, it kills my soul. Hey, hey, I'm a leaf on a windy day. Pretty soon I'll be blown away. How long will the wind blow? How long will the wind blow? Till I die, these things ain't gone. 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 Till I die, these things ain't gone.
Okay, so as I was saying, before I lost track of where I was, this is a song written for his brother Carl, as he was dying of, not Brian, as Carl was dying of lung cancer.
Right.
They had a very difficult relationship, as, children of abusive father would have, and also, all the pressure surrounding the Beach Boys organization and all that. But Carl was always especially close to Brian and a very powerful creative force in his own right, and stepped in for Brian pretty much when Brian stepped away from the Beach Boys, although there's only one Brian Wilson. So in any event, I wanted to play this as to show that Brian still had his, even late in life, even after all the troubles he went through,
Yeah. Still had the gift.
he still had that way of doing that thing with notes and chords and melodies that just is that magical thing. So here's a beautiful song that he wrote for his brother as his brother was dying.
So many years spent running away. How many times I wished I could stay. Too much emotion, a hole in my heart. Feeling alone since we've been apart. If I had the chance, I'd never let you go. Just want you to know. Down, lay me down, lay me down, lay down, burden down, lay me down, lay me down, lay down, burden. How many things I wanted to do? How many times spent thinking this through? So many nights spent here by the phone. Wondered if you felt just as alone. While some things have all been crazy from the start. It's tearing me apart. Down, lay me down, lay me down, lay down, burden down, lay me down, lay me down, lay down, burden. Just remember the way I held you. You're always in my heart. Lay me down, lay me down, lay down, burden down, lay me down, lay me down, lay down.
All right.
So I guess the end of the story is that he did kind of have a happy ending. He and his second wife, Melinda, adopted a bunch of kids. I've seen lots of videos where, for the first time really in his life, he looked like a happy, relaxed guy. He did a lot.
One of the great moments, too, was he got to finish Smile and perform the whole thing.
He sort of got to finish Smile,
But it was kind of cathartic, to at least have
it definitely was cathartic for him. It's
Yeah.
unclear how much of that was him and how much of that was the crew around him, and also how
Right.
much he remembered
Well, that, too.
of what had been Smile.
Yeah.
A lot had transpired in between, but his later albums, some of them are very good. He got to do a tribute to Gershwin,
Yes.
going back to his infant love affair with Rhapsody in Blue. He did an album of Disney classics. He did a great album called Lucky Old Son. His final album, No Peer Pressure, was mostly duets with contemporary artists, and it has some gorgeous tracks on it, and just some really great stuff on it. So I think he ended up in a good place. I mean, obviously he was I think he was on record as being kind of panicky about getting old and dying, and all his brothers were gone and all of that stuff. But
sure.
that's just old age. And beyond that, I think he had pretty much a happy ending and went through the fire, but he was just a singular talent. And for anybody who's interested in hearing more about him, I would start with the last album he did, No Peer Pressure. Start there. I mean, why not start in modern music and go back if you're interested?
And also, Robby mentioned a documentary that was produced by Don Was called I Just Wasn't Made for These Times. That might be
that was
another way to go.
interesting.
But he left behind a beautiful body of work that will stand the test of time, especially if you're looking at the power of the voice and the spirit through harmony. So, Robby Berman, thank you very much for being
Sure.
here today, for
My
working
pleasure.
so hard to put this together. Robby's got many of his own recordings out over the years, and tomorrow he's dropping a new one from A Ways Down the Road. And it's available on all the platforms, especially Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and Amazon. And as you know, throughout the year, once in a while, I will spend time with a short interview with people who can't usually travel here to share their new music. We'll talk to Robby in September, October about the new release to talk about his music and his process. But that'll be for the next conversation. Rob, thanks again for this
Sure.
one. It was really great
Good
to
to
have
see
you
you.
here in the house, man.
Yep.
Good to have you. Okay, so that's it for this week. Thank you, Matt Rupar, for all the extra engineering, and we'll see you next week. Take care.